Today, you're going to learn data aggregation in Pandas. I'm going to take you guys through basic aggregation, multi-tier, all the way up to advanced aggregation. And we're going to do all this through interactive lesson material that I've made for you guys, as well as interactive code within VS Code. Think of aggregation as an extension onto your original data frame. Welcome back, guys, to the channel. Welcome back, guys, for another episode of Code with Josh. For obvious reasons, I'm Josh, and I'm happy to have you guys here. Do me a favor before I dive into the episode, hit that like button and subscribe. That really does help my channel out in the YouTube algorithm, and if you're finding value in here, well, help me out, drop a like. As I mentioned, today is all about data aggregation in Pandas. And I'm going to walk you guys through different stages of how you can apply different levels of aggregation, working with basic, multi-tier, and advanced aggregation. I'm also going to show you guys how you can build your own functions and apply those onto your advanced aggregations. And at the end, I'm going to show you guys how you can target this new data within that and plot that using Matplotlib. Now, the data set that I'm using here today is for you guys. It's the first link in the description. Okay, so I want you to be following along and really learning what we're doing here on the channel, because that's the best way to learn. Practice, okay? Build your own, all right? The first link in the description is the data set that I'm using. Head on down there and get it so you can follow along. And all the other links I have available and resources to help you guys wherever you're at in your journey, those are the links below, all right? So head on down, check them out, drop a like button and subscribe. Let's dive into the episode. So as I mentioned, our topic is advanced data aggregation. I'm going to take you guys from the absolute basics of aggregation all the way through to a more advanced style, which is going to allow us to manipulate our data set in a different light. So let's kick things off with the pure basics. All right, maybe you have used aggregation before, and this is maybe what you've seen. Now, really what this does is it allows us to apply multiple functions to grouped data at one time without having to redo it, okay? Now, in Pandas, we have the aggregate method. And you can see here I'm using ag as well as aggregate. You can use either of these. It does the exact same thing. So it's really just a preference, okay? So aggregate, this gets linked to group data. And really notice that I have a list here. You can put Python functions inside here. And these functions are going to be applied to your data. And over here, I've actually put some common ones. All right, there are a few more, but the ones that I'm going to focus on today are going to revolve around this. Right? So this is the most basic form of aggregation. Right? I could apply min, max, mean, and all three of those functions are going to be applied to the data set at the exact same time. Now, we could take it a step further, right? Because maybe I have grouped data, and then within that grouped data, I want to target specific columns. So now, this is the next step up. I could target a specific column within my grouped data, and I could once again do the same thing, apply functions that affect a certain column. Okay, so if we ran our code, so for example here, let me pop some code up for you guys. Let's imagine I have a data set about countries, right? So I'm grouping by the country and then the city. Now within my grouped data, right, I have a column called population 2024. So I am targeting this column within my group data, and I'm simply just aggregating. I'm applying these three functions. What this does is in your terminal, this creates a really nice visual table. You can see that because I started grouping by country, that's the first part. And then you could think of city as the subgroup from country. Now for each of those, I'm applying and I'm essentially creating a new data set or a new data frame in a way, and I'm creating a column for min, max, and the mean. Pretty cool, huh? Right? So it really clears things up for us.
Now, this is a version of more advanced aggregation. And here I'm creating new columns by choosing which original column I want, and then I'm applying a function onto it. So if you imagine I'm grouping by country, and then I'm creating an advanced aggregation. So think of this as like I'm creating a new series of data, new columns that are an extension of our original data frame. Right? So it's just like data featuring. In data featuring, you're creating a new column in your data frame, right? You're actually manipulating the data frame. Well, when I'm aggregating data here, I'm not manipulating the original data frame. I'm almost creating an extension data frame of that. That's going to have, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So I'm calling the aggregation method. I am naming the column. I'm choosing this column from our original data frame, and then I'm choosing which function I want to apply. Okay, so this is like an extension of our data frame. Now when I run this, right, it's going to look something like this. And as I mentioned, okay guys, reread this if you need to, but this allows you to do and filter more while being able to target them later. So this is like an extension data frame. I've created a new data frame from my group. Remember that I grouped by country, and then I created 4 new columns. These were the names that I named my columns. And it has the function we applied onto that, right? So max population, I applied the max function, right? For average growth, we applied mean, and it gets the mean of that. So now later, if I decided to work with this data more or even plot this, I can plot my aggregated data. I can target these columns specifically because these are an extension of our data frame. So really quick, I put together some Matplotlib code for you. And this is kind of what that would look like. So remembering the aggregated data from before, okay, so if I go back really quickly, 1, 2, this was our aggregated data, and I created 4 columns, okay? So now you can see that I'm taking my aggregated data, and then I'm applying sort values onto that. And with sort values, I am targeting one of the new columns that I made in the aggregated data. Right? So this wasn't in the original data frame. No, this is only a column within the aggregated data. I can now take that and I can target it and I could plot that. Right, so in this example, I only cut off the first 15 because there's too many countries, and using a pie chart, it doesn't work. It's all jumbled together. So up here, I cut the first 15 off, okay, of the top 15 most populated countries, and I got that through my aggregated data. Once I could target that column, I then plotted it into our pie chart. All right, so that's really cool. That's how we could take our aggregation into a more advanced level. All right, guys, let's jump into VS Code and work with a new data set, specifically Walmart stock data. And let's actually implement this and then plot this to create a visualization.
Hey guys, real quick, if you're getting value in today's video, help my channel out and hit that like button and subscribe. That means the world and really does help me out within the algorithm. All right, over to VS Code.
All right, here I've just opened VS Code. I've already imported Pandas and Matplotlib. Okay, and these are the steps that I'm going to go through here. Guys, if you're getting value, do me a favor and help out the channel, help me out, and hit that like button, all right? And if you're not already subscribed, consider subscribing. That really helps my channel grow. All right, so as I mentioned, the first link in the description, you're going to get access to this, okay? I've included the link down below for you guys to follow along. This is stock data from Walmart from the year 2000 all the way to 2024, okay? And you can see that here are going to be the headers within our data set. And specifically, I'm going to be working with open, close, and probably volume today to see how much. And we're going to plot a piece of our aggregated data. Okay. Now we are able to create our own custom functions and apply those into the aggregation. So stay tuned to the end because I'm going to teach you how to apply your own custom functions. Now the first thing you can do, I'm assuming you have worked with Pandas before. If you haven't, guys, I have a whole series out surrounding Pandas and data analytics. I'm going to try and link that here for you guys where I take you from A to Z. Inside here, I'm going to put our CSV data. So now I have this. Now, if I go through, I'm going to here, I'm going to get the info. Okay. I'm going to get the shape. That just gives us the shape of our data. And then I'm going to print off the first, let's say 10 rows. Let's run this. So here we go. I already covered the CSV. I had that open for you guys. And you can see those rows here as well as the data types we're working with. For our advanced aggregation, I am going to have to convert the date into a date time format, all right? But all of this is pretty well cleaned, and for today's episode, I'm not going to go into the cleaning part, just our aggregation. So let me start off with super basic aggregation, okay? This is what I talked about first, and I'm just going to target a specific column within our data set. So for example, if I wanted to get the aggregation of the open price for this, I'm going to call this, I'm going to use aggregate here. Okay, and we're starting off with aggregate. Remember, you can use ag. Okay, I just want you guys to remember what's happening where. So inside aggregate, I'm just going to put things like min, max, let's do median, all the basic ones here, and then mean. Okay, now to see this aggregation really work, you just got to print it off, and it ultimately creates that extension of our data frame, applying these and displaying it in a really neat way. Boom, look at that. So down here, this is the original head. Okay, so I could actually turn this off. I don't want to confuse you guys. At the bottom is where we saw just 3 rows, okay? It's not creating any columns yet. We're just displaying for the entire open column. I'm applying these functions. And you can see those being applied here, right? The minimum open was $14. The maximum is just above $61. And the average opening price is $25.83. All right, so that's the most basic form of aggregation. Now let's take it up a notch to like multi-tier aggregation. So within multi-tier aggregation, this is where I can apply these functions to more than one column. Okay, so I'm going to just call this multi-tier. Okay, let's just tap into our entire data this time and let's aggregate. This time I'll use ag. Now, because I'm applying multiple tiers, I'm going to insert a dictionary. The key in this Python dictionary is the column we want to target, and the value is a list. So I'm actually just going to take this so we can apply all of these again. And I could do this for as many as I want. Open, close, as well as let's do volume. Just like that. So right there, I've pretty much done what I'm after, the multi-tier. I can target multiple rows. Here was the original 4. Now we have a grid that we've actually created. Okay, so you can see that now I'm creating columns. I have the open, the close, as well as the volume. Right? This is pretty cool. Now things are starting to shift in our favor. Okay, and I want you guys to keep an eye on how we take it from this really basic aggregation all the way up to the next part, the advanced part. Now let's take this a step further. I want to create rows of my own. Well, not specifically rows. I'm going to create my own columns, right? This is going to be the real extension of our data. So we've gone with basic, we've gone with multi-tier. Now we're going to come down to some more advanced data aggregation. Now for this, I am going to do the date. So I mentioned that I'm going to have to briefly clean that. So let's take our date column and we're just going to use the pandas to date time, and then we can drop in that column like so. Okay, so date's now been converted to a thing we can work with. So let's call this like advanced data. Okay, I'm going to take my data and I'm going to group by. Okay, I'm creating a group. So aggregation works with groups. What do I want to group by? Well, I want to group by my date. Okay, and that data type is going to be a year. Let's say the year. Okay, so now that I have a group of my date, that's the data type year. Okay, I am going to aggregate that. Okay, so now here I'm going to create tuples as a keyword argument. And the name of the tuple is going to be the new column that I'm creating an extension of. So for example, if I want to create a new column and I want to call this open min, I'm giving it a name and then parentheses. Okay, what column in the original data frame am I going to target? Well, I'm going to target the open. All right. What function am I going to apply? Min. Okay, so I've created a new column called open min. I'm targeting the original column open and I'm applying the min function. Okay, let's do a few more. If I want to find the maximum, how am I going to do that? Well, the same thing. Open, okay, and then I'm going to apply max. What if I want to do the closing average price? How do we do that? Well, create the new name, so close mean. Let's call it close mean. And we are going to put in here the close, and we are just going to drop in the mean function. And for the last one, let's get our volume total. Let's get the total volume that's been moving around the markets. Let's target the volume, and let's apply the sum function. Just like that, guys. Okay, just like that. If I come down here now and I'm going to print off my advanced data, let's look at how this extension is created. Voila, look at that. Guys, if you're getting value in the video, do me a favor, hit that like button, okay, and subscribe. That really does help me out. Okay, so think of this as an extension. Remember, the key is our date. And where, let's scroll down a little bit that. Okay, because I'm grouping by the date. I said that. So that's really my grouping. And then our aggregation is when I'm creating these columns on my own. And you can see that it creates and puts this out rather nicely for us. These were not columns in our original data set, right? If I go back, these were those columns. So now that I've created this aggregated data, I could actually target these and I could actually print these into, excuse me, not print, I could plot these into a plot. All right, but before we move into data visualization, okay, very quickly, I mentioned you can create your own custom functions and apply those on as well, right? So typically, you would use in Pandas apply, right? Because that allows you to apply functions you make onto your data frame. So let me just make a function. Let's keep it really basic. Let's call this like, I want to calculate the range. So I'll be like range calc. This can take a number, okay? And this is really just going to return the max of that number minus the min of that number. So x min, like so. Now what I want this to do is calculate the range of values in open, right? So if I came down here and I made a new one and I was like open range, right? You would just put the column you want to target, and then this time you just put the name of your function. So range calc. That's really it, right? And when I run my code, I still create a new column in our aggregated data. Boom, right there. Open range. And you can see that it's 0 because I did min minus min. This should be max. Not min. That's going to give me a 0. There we go. Okay, so here's that column. Here's us applying a custom function. So feel free to build out your own functions, apply them onto your aggregation. Now comes the fun part, data visualization. Let's actually target this one that we just made, and let's plot this findings in Matplotlib. Remember at the top here, I already have imported pyplot from Matplotlib. Okay, so at the bottom here, I'm gonna turn that off. Okay, and I'm just gonna go into plotting. So let's create a Matplotlib figure. Guys, if you missed it, I have some videos out on data visualization that really break down Matplotlib. I'll try and link them here. Those are for you guys. Head on over, check them out, drop a like, let me know your thoughts, okay? Comment below on how you're finding this. So I'm creating a figure. A typical argument I like to give is just the size of the figure. I want it to be wider than it is in height, always. So I'm going to say 10 by 6. Okay, so I have a figure. I'm going to now plot. Okay, so typically plot is going to take something from our data frame. But remember, I actually created an extension of my data frame right here. So this is like a new mini data frame. And I want to use this data instead. So inside plot, I'm going to start off with the index of our aggregated data. And now I can treat my aggregated data just like I would my data frame. So I take my data, square brackets to choose a column. What column do I want? Open range, just like you would anything else. Let's just give it a color. I don't know, orange is kind of cool. And let's even do this. Let's give it a marker, right? Marker, and let's mark that as like an O. It'll be easier to see what's happening. Always give your charts a title, okay? Range, what is this up? Range of opening prices. Yeah, so just be thorough, okay? Give your guys selves some labels because this is better for the person who needs to read this data and look at it. Okay, so be clear, label your stuff. This is going to be year, and this is going to be our open range. Cool. You could even put here if you wanted to like a grid. I don't know, make it look a bit nicer, easier to see where the dots align. Then finally, we just want to show our plot. So remember, guys, I'm not targeting here data. If I do this and I run this, I'm going to get an error. Okay, I'm gonna run this now just to show you the point, right? Because open range is not in the original data set. Boom, I'm throwing an error. Okay, I'm not even going to go through the error. You could even target open, right? Let's run this. Open is in the original data set, but I'm going to get an error here because the index. So let me just revert to this actually. Okay, advanced data, running our data, extension of the data frame. Would you look at that? Right, so now I'm able to create visualizations and findings from our aggregated data. That is advanced data aggregation in Python. That's the first steps. Okay, guys, remember, the data set's below, so use what you're learning in these videos, right? I teach that in the classroom, but I also teach that really, that old saying, practice is key. It really is key. Okay, so head on over, put what you're learning to use in practice, because we just did some advanced aggregation.
Well, guys, there you have it. A mini episode here on data aggregation in Pandas. I hope you guys got value, and if you did, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts on this episode and the previous episodes, as I've been working a lot with data analytics, data visualization, interactive dashboards. So drop a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys in next week's episode. Until then, Python crew,